What's up, Mensch?
Listen,
What's driving you crazy?
Travis Hunter, Mr.
Yep.
Do Everything, Mr. Heisman Trophy winner from Colorado, who I love, and I want to be clear about that. This is going to get spun on me. I know
It sounds like a Kuiper preface, but go ahead.
It's going to get spun on me. He is not a top 5 pick in this draft. Look, we're getting into mock draft season, right?
Wait,
and
what?
Big boards are one thing. And Travis Hunter is 2, maybe 3 on my big board, right? So keep it all in mind, keep it all in perspective. But when you start looking at mock drafts, you start looking at needs, you start realizing quarterbacks can go earlier, you start realizing how good this edge class is. I start looking at it, and I think it's more probable than not that Travis Hunter doesn't go in those first 5 picks.
I think you're dead ass wrong.
Listen, it's so bad. It's a problem in my family. My son, Tyler, is a huge Patriots fan. And he tells me if the Patriots pass on Hunter at 4, if he's there, that he will riot.
All right. Well, why? I guess this is the natural follow-up.
I'm convinced that Cam Ward's going to go 1, the quarterback from Miami. I'm convinced that the
Tennessee Titans. Yep.
Yeah. The Titans they need a quarterback. They'll take Ward 1. If they don't, I think Abdul Carter from Penn State. They need an edge, right?
Okay.
Cleveland's going to trade Myles Garrett.
Why don't we throw up the NFL draft picks if we have that graphic so we can kind of walk through this. But Cleveland at number 2. So if you're watching along on YouTube or Spotify, here you see the top 5 picks. Tennessee at 1, Cleveland at 2, the New York Giants at 3. All with quarterback needs, I guess, somewhat to Mensch's point.
Right.
New England Patriots sitting at 4. They've got their guy in Drake May. Jacksonville at 5, obviously with Trevor Lawrence. Go ahead, Mensch.
So I think that when you get to Cleveland, they trade Myles Garrett. Well, if they like a quarterback enough there, to your point, I should say that, or if Cam Ward falls to 2, then it's going to be a quarterback, or I think it's going to be an edge. I think it's going to be Mykel Williams out of Georgia.
Or it could be Abdul Carter if Cam Ward goes 1.
Exactly. It's going to be one of the 2 edges or one of the or Cam Ward, right? Let's go in that direction. Okay. Now we're talking about Shedeur Sanders is dropping hints all over the place. He's going to the Giants. They need a quarterback. I think they're desperate.
And the Raiders. I've heard both, but go ahead.
Yeah, true. Fair enough. I think that the Giants are in a position where they need to take a quarterback this year. So even if Ward's off the board, I think it's Sanders. Now we get to New England at 4. I could see them doing it. Don't get me wrong. They need too much help up front. I think one of these offensive tackles, pick one of your favorites. They're all bunched up together a little bit. Pick your favorite, McShay, whoever it is. I think that offensive tackle is probably going to go for, and if not, they could go an edge. They could go Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. Why? Because you build teams up front first. And New England is a team that has way too many needs in the trenches to be going and getting a guy on the perimeter as talented as Hunter is. Again, number 2 or 3 on my board. The dude is a stud. Don't get me wrong. But when you're looking at needs and how you build rosters, you start up front. So again, I don't think New England's going to take him. I think New England wishes it was in a position to take him. They're not. They're just not. So then you get to 5. Jacksonville's interesting. Jacksonville could be
let's go back to New England.
Yeah.
Hold on. I don't actually disagree with that premise. Well, I disagree with your overall premise here. and I'm not. Travis Hunter is only a generational talent if you can figure out the perfect way to handle the load management and allow him to be the best version of himself on both sides of the ball while keeping him healthy for a 17-game NFL season and hopefully one day into the playoffs. That's what would make him a generational talent. He is a damn good cornerback. He's a damn good wide receiver, and I think probably a little bit more advanced, or I like him a little bit more as a wide receiver prospect as of this second.
Right.
And other people in the league do too, but there are others who believe that he's going to be a better cornerback in the league. Regardless, he's only a generational talent. And I use that word because that's what the Tennessee Titans came out and said that, if there's a generational talent at number 1, we're going to take him. And everyone kind of jumped to, is that Travis Hunter or is that Abdul Carter? Right.
Right.
But he's only that kind of special talent. I don't want to say only. What makes him go from like an elite corner or a great corner or a great receiver to an exceptional talent is the potential of getting production and playmaking and big play stuff on both sides of the ball, right?
Correct. Right.
So it really is up to the organization that gets him to figure out that fine line, like a fine line of let's develop him as a corner. Let's make him a full-time starting corner. Let's get that playmaking ability. Let's develop a guy who can be a shutdown, take away your number one wide receiver type corner, and give us some big plays along the way. And then let's develop a package. Let's put in installs every week that gets them the opportunity to be on the field for, I don't know, 20, 25 plays a game and maybe 4 or 5 touches a game, ballpark. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what would make him special. To your point, and while the Patriots are just as capable as any other organization of finding that fine line or messing it up, let's face it, like I don't think because history tells us no one has had the perfect formula to allow a player to do both at a very consistent high rep level. Even Deion Sanders, we talked about it.
Right.
What did he have? Like I got to pull up those numbers again. I think he had like 60 catches and throughout his entire long career in the NFL. It wasn't a lot. I think it was a low number. I was shocked when we look back at like career catches or offensive touches, whatever it was. And then like we looked at like Charles Woodson, Champ Bailey. It was like 2 and 3 career. It was, like the impact wasn't there compared to what they were in college.
Right.
So while the Patriots are just as capable of making it work or mucking it up, I don't disagree that if we're building a foundation with an organization and we're looking at what has worked, and we'll get into the Eagles, we'll get into the Chiefs. I've talked about other organizations like the Ravens, the Bills, okay? Organizations that have sustained success. It's find your quarterback, and then he can't mask any of the problems on the defensive side. So let's load up in the draft and build a great defense around him. So while at cornerback, he's obviously going to be an integral part. Patriots have a great corner already, and they need edge rushers. They need guys up front. So I don't disagree necessarily on the Patriots. And with Mike Vrabel calling the shots, I think he's more inclined to get a workhorse up front. So I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, and to your point also about building that role for Hunter and being able to manage that workload. He played an absurd amount of snaps this year, but remember, he missed 3 games last year, this past year, and then in 2023, he missed 3 games, and he only played in 8 games as a freshman at Jacksonville State. He's a lean dude. I'm interested to see what he weighs in at. I think he's going to test extremely well at the combine or at the pro day, whatever he decides to do. But
he's already said, just sorry to cut you off. He's already said he's going to work out as a cornerback. We've seen this before a lot, like guys who are like linebackers who also do some edge rush stuff. He's going to work out as a cornerback at the combine. He's stating as of now, we'll see what happens. He is going to work out at the combine as a cornerback, and then will also participate in some of the wide receiver drills. Just to update people.
So he's smart enough to play both ways. He's talented enough to play both ways. But I worry about with the more physical game at the NFL level over if you make a run 20 games. I mean, let's see how they're able to manage that workload. As an NFL exec, I would have a little bit of concern there. So again, he's only a generational player. I'll get through the teams here. The last team is Jacksonville. I think that they could take him, but I also think Mason Graham from Michigan, I think is a great pick at 5. I think they're okay on the interior defensive line. They need to shore it up a little bit. I think Mason Graham is an outstanding talented defensive tackle and helps them out. And if they do go with a corner, do they want a guy that they know is going to be a corner? Is Will Johnson out of Michigan is inconsistent and he was banged up this year. Do they find that more of an attractive option? Remember, coming into the season, Will Johnson was, I think, a top 5 player on the board. So that could be another direction they go in. So when I'm looking at it, I feel like more probable than not that Travis Hunter is going to fall out of those top 5 picks. And then let's go back and look at just specific positions for, like, if you were just to play receiver, right? Malik Neighbors, who I think is a better wide receiver prospect than Travis Hunter, it went 6. Jamar Chase, who I think was a better wide receiver prospect, went 5. Now, Corey Davis went out of Western Michigan. He went 5 in 2017. I think that's an outlier. But these guys that are going that early, they're coming out of most of the time. It's Amari Cooper, Sammy Watkins did the same thing. These are bigger programs. These are Marvin Harrison, Ohio State, LSU, Clemson. I like Travis Hunter, and I think he's going to be good against whoever he goes against, but he did play a Big 12 schedule this year. So there's some of the, when you start adding all of these things up, I think there's just enough. Again, number 2 or 3 on my board. I want to insert this everywhere so people just can't clip me out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Great player. But we're talking about a top 5. It's you're special if you're a top 5 receiver. You're special maybe to a lesser degree at corner. I mean, because there's, Devin Weatherspoon won 3 in 2023. Stingley Gardner, 3 and 4 in 2022. Jeff Okudah, 3 in 2020. But these are guys you're looking at just corner. And I think he's in that conversation. But when I'm looking at these teams, I think quarterbacks are going to go earlier than they should. And the edge rusher class being this good, don't hate me, Colorado fans. I love Travis Hunter. I just think he's going to fall out of the top 5.
Now, it's interesting. That's going to be in the back of my mind as I go through it. It's going to be the back of my mind. And I can't wait for me to put him in the top 5 and for us to have this.
Yeah, you'll have him 2 to spite me.
Not to spite you, because I think it's what's going to happen, but we'll see. Real quickly, I just want to spin it forward, 2 minutes here. Tucker, if we have the cornerback list, the top cornerbacks, I just did the updated top 100. And I think this factors into what you're saying, because sometimes it's not necessarily about, I always say there's a combo element, and we'll talk to some general managers as we continue to do this, the decision maker series. Because I've had great conversations with general managers in the past, just privately, about sometimes it's about the combo pick, right? And it's, all right, I love this player at a certain position, but if I don't take, let's say, the offensive tackle here, the run runs out. I can't get one in the second round. So why is that important looking at this year's cornerback class? It's actually a better class than I thought, Mensch. And I just wanted to bring that up quickly. So if you're considering Travis Hunter, and on this list, if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, we don't have Travis Hunter here because we put him at wide receiver. I think moving forward, I'm just going to have him in both spots so that when we pull up a graphic, we can have him. But we would have Travis Hunter at number 2 overall, ahead of Will Johnson at number 5 overall. And I got to do more digging on Will. I know some people are kind of cooling on him. That's fine. We'll get to it. It's a long process. But Will, so you've got 2 corners there up at the top. Jahdae Barron at 24. Quite honestly, the more conversations I'm having with people in the league, I think it's going to be higher, Mensch. I think he could be a top 15 pick coming out of Texas. And I know it's a guy you love and I love. And if you watch college football at all this year, even if you're not projecting the NFL draft, how can you not love this guy? He's always around the football. So you got in this cornerback class, if you don't take Travis Hunter, right? Will Johnson, you're not going to get him the second time around. Jahdae Barron, you're not going to get him the second time around unless you move up. Azariah Thomas, the cornerback from Florida State, who I've fallen in love with and watched on tape. I really liked him. And watching him at the Senior Bowl is where I took it to another level. But then you got Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, another guy who had a great week at the Senior Bowl. I think he's fringe for second. And then Siobhan Revel junior from East Carolina, who could go late first. Darian Porter, Iowa State, who I talked to you about, I think early second for a cover 3 team. The Seahawks traditionally, a lot of teams in the league running that kind of defense now. I think with the length and the speed that he has, I agree with you. If Benjamin Morrison clears medically, we're talking about him maybe in the top 25. Quincy Riley from Louisville, the more people we talk to at the Senior Bowl, the more we realize the appreciation they have for his ball skills and what he does when the ball is in the air.
Yeah.
So Trey Amos, huge playmaker from Ole Miss. Upton Stout is undersized slot corner, but you can get him probably in the 3rd round. So my point is this cornerback class is a lot deeper than I thought. So if you pass on him there because you want to get an edge rusher, because this class all of a sudden, we're looking at it damn, this is a really good defensive front class.
Right.
So that factors in as well.